I think that adoption of AI solutions is like creating new habits for work. And for us as people, this is hard. It doesn't matter if you are very flexible in your thoughts. It doesn't matter if you are very adjustable. It's a huge change that we need to undergo. And it's hard for people and they need to gain confidence. And many times changes are not bounded to what's actually available or what's actually feasible. It's about what people can actually adopt and what people can actually absorb.
Yo, it's the future, don't hit the snooze. AI is here giving humans the boost. Team Humans rolling, brains in the game with Dan Turchin. Y'all remember the name. People reign in the mix, no stopping the flow. Better work, better life, yeah, we're ready to go. Robots and humans, a collab, you know. Okay, let's start the show.
Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you're listening. Welcome back to AI and the Future of Work, episode 383. I'm your host, Dan Turchin, CEO of PeopleRain, the AI platform for IT and HR employee service. Our community is growing. We just published about our 90th weekly newsletter. If you aren't subscribed, why aren't you? It's a good place to get to know our guests a little better. You get some fun facts and tips that don't always make it into the main episode. We will share a link in the show notes. If you like what we do, please pay it forward. Share this episode or any other one that you love with just one friend. They will know that you value using AI to make humans better. And you know what? It's just kind of good karma. If you leave a comment, I may share it in an upcoming episode like this one from the mailbag from Brad in Oakland, California, just up the road from me, whose favorite episode is number 163 with Tom Wheeler, former FCC chairman, CEO, VC, and author of Techlash, about how we can take back control from big tech. That is one of my all-time favorite episodes. Brad, you and I agree. We learn from AI thought leaders weekly on the show. The added bonus, you get one AI fun fact each week. Here it is for today. Amelia David writes in VentureBeat about how competing protocols from Google, OpenAI, and Visa may define the future of AI commerce. In the battle of AI-enabled commerce, getting agents to securely complete transactions is an opportunity for chat platforms like ChatGPT to replace browsers in traditional search. 3 competing agentic commerce standards have emerged. Google announced the Agent Pay Protocol, or AP2, with partners including PayPal, American Express, MasterCard, and Salesforce. Soon after, OpenAI and Stripe debuted the Agentic Commerce Platform, or ACP, and Visa subsequently launched the Trusted Agent Protocol, or TAP. It usually takes years for the industry to coalesce around a single standard. AI standards are coalescing much faster. For example, MCP became the de facto channel for tool use identification in just a matter of months. That's, of course, from Anthropic. There's a lot more to unpack in this story. Of course, we will share a link to the full article in the show notes. For now, though, my commentary, what remains to be seen is whether or not the AI commerce experience is better than the alternative. We often hear about booking flights or ordering groceries via ChatGPT. Having used the early versions of both, I see no benefit in switching. I expect AI-first features built into shopping sites rather than shopping sites built into chatbots. For example, the AI navigation features in products like Etsy and Google Flight Search are far superior to any self-proclaimed alternatives from Claude, ChatGPT, or Gemini. Owning commerce may be existential for OpenAI to monetize its roughly 900 million weekly active users, but it's obvious that what's best for OpenAI isn't necessarily best for consumers. Past is prologue here. There's a reason why virtual trade shows and NFT markets failed. AI innovation in commerce and elsewhere will ultimately be judged by whether or not it solves a problem in a way that's better for consumers than the alternative. We will continue to unpack that topic in the weeks ahead. Now, shifting to this week's amazing conversation. Daniel Lereya is the Chief Product and Technology Officer at Monday.com, the AI work platform used by 60% of the Fortune 500 that's currently valued at about $8 billion. Daniel leads the global R&D and product teams. Prior to Monday.com, he served as a software team leader and software engineer at IBM and as a software engineer at SAP. He holds his BSc in computer science and economics from Tel Aviv University, one of my favorite cities in the world. And Daniel, without further ado, it really is my pleasure to welcome you to AI in the Future of Work. Let's get started by having you share a bit more about your background and how you got started in the space.
Thank you, Dan. And it's a pleasure to be here, and thanks for hosting me. So, a little bit about myself. So, as you've mentioned, I'm a software engineer by heart. I think that the main, I would say that the main passion that I have is about building products. And this, I would say connection between technology and people. So I think that this part of like being both in the product and technology together, for me, it's like the best spot ever. Uh, a little bit about my journey at Monday. So I joined Monday uh, quite in the early days. We were around 30 people at the company back then, around, I would say, 4.5 million ARR. And over the last 9.5 years, we've been, scaling super fast. Today, we have over 1 billion in ARR. We're a global company, which is, has around 3,000 employees. My team grew from 5 people to around 900. So as you can imagine, this was like a very inspiring journey for me, and with a lot of ups and downs. And this is like the way I was introduced into the space, I would say, of AI, also from the Monday's perspective, about like taking AI, which is, we all say it's one of, if not the biggest change ever in technology. And how can you actually leverage this huge technology and this huge change that it brings into the work ecosystem of how people work with digital products. So this is a bit about myself.
So I certainly understand, just as an investor in Monday, how the company has changed, but I can only imagine how Daniel has changed. So talk us through how you've grown as a leader and as a person over the last 9+ years.
Yeah, it's a very good question, and it's very hard to answer on it because during these years felt that each year or so it's a totally different company, and my role is changing dramatically. So in the early days, I was coding in the platform and like doing a lot of hands-on work. And as we continue to grow, my role has significantly changed into more being in the leadership position of like portraying the vision, portraying the strategy together with other people in the company, and also building the team. So it's very hard to say, but I think that for me personally, like it's a bit like when you look on your kids and you see them grow. So for you, it's very hard to notice how they change, but for other kids, you see it very well. So from what I can say, I think I learned a lot during this lesson, during this journey. I did a lot of mistakes during this, journey. We did a lot of great things. So I'm sure I gained a lot of, insights. I can say that today I have more questions than I had like 9 years ago, maybe. But so maybe it comes with with the age. But yeah, it's a very good question, and it's hard to say.
I could only imagine. So there must have been a point in the last probably 3 to 4 years, I'm guessing, when as R&D leader, you woke up and said, the product architecture, kind of the way of thinking about product that got us here won't get us there, right? To the $1 billion ARR, et cetera. What was that like, and how did you kind of reprocess everything that you thought you knew about building product when AI first became kind of a new mantra?
Yeah, I must say that AI is really, in many ways, makes you think about things from the basics. So you need to go all the way, and it's hard because when you're a large company and you are successful, you have a lot of customers. We have more than 250,000 paying customers, companies that use Monday, and they gain so much value from the product and do so many great things with it. And with that, when the AI was introduced, we actually understood that things are going to change. And it took us time, okay? It doesn't happen overnight. I think that during the company life cycle, we had a lot of significant changes. We became, a multi-product company offering more than one product. We became a public company. But the change with AI is really different because the change with AI, in my eyes, makes you, in order to cope with it, you actually need to let a lot of the guards down. You need to think back to a 0 to 1 mentality. And in many ways, what got you to this point is actually the things that are going to delay you if you will continue in the same way. And it's very hard, it's very hard, for each and every one of us, for me personally and for everyone in the team. So we had to do a lot of things in order to create, the setup and the right state of mind, both each and every one of us personally, but also with the team, as you can imagine, because you need to let go a lot of old and fun habits, around everything. I think that building AI, the products that are AI first products, suddenly it's not about building the UI, okay, which is something that many of us, pay a lot of attention to, and so on. The ideas to validation loops are quite immediate. It's amazing, but suddenly everything becomes an opportunity, and focus becomes an ultra challenge, on what to focus and where to invest and on what. And I think that in that sense, in order to do this change, it took us few steps. But I'm a big believer that if you want to get to the next phase, many times it means to let go of the previous stage. And also that the biggest risk is not taking risks. Many times when you think about risk, you only think about the risk of taking an action, and you are not weighing it, over the risk of not doing anything and continuing the same course. So we had a lot of things. One big event that we did is that we actually stopped everything across the organization. My organization stopped for, 1 month, where we actually thought from the beginning about what we are solving for our customers, how we solve it, and also the way we work with AI. And was the AI Month initiatives, and it resulted in a lot of great things, and also with a change of direction for us.
That's a very savvy leadership move. Few CTOs are bold enough to have done that. And in hindsight, I'm sure it was the right decision for you.
I must say that, personally, there was a time where I felt that everything is changing, but we didn't change accordingly. And this was extremely stressful because you feel that you see something and not everyone are seeing it. And it's very hard. And with the AI month, what I actually felt is that, our culture was always about like people and around making everyone's brains into every challenge, and not like having one person that needs to direct everyone. Rather, have a lot of talented people, give them ownership, be transparent about the challenges, and let everyone act. And in a way, it got us back to the early days of Monday, where everyone were tackling the challenge together. And for me, actually, while it may seem as a very, I would say, bold move, for me, it was actually something that reassured me. It actually made me feel a lot better because suddenly I saw that everyone sees the same challenges as, I see them, as the leadership team sees them, and we have everyone on board. So it was like, I would say it might be surprising, but for me, it was actually like the easy decision to take.
I have to admit, I am fanboying my way through this conversation with you because most of our biggest customers at PeopleRain also use Monday. And for listeners who aren't familiar with it, it's ubiquitous in the enterprise. And I think of it almost like Slack a decade ago, where once you turned it on, you weren't turning it off. It just kind of spreads like wildfire. It's an amazing product. Hearing your answer and kind of your approach to AI and AI first development, requires me to ask this question. So as technologists, in the past, we write code and it's deterministic. And when there's a bug, we know that it didn't work the way it was designed to work. But with AI, we don't even know what a bug is anymore because it's essentially we're writing code that writes code and it might have unintended consequences. How do you think about approaching writing software when the outcomes of what you're building are non-deterministic?
Yeah, it's a very good point, and it's not only about the software. I feel it. This is exact challenge that customers have when they implement a workflow with AI, and then when they introduce AI into the work ecosystem, because you know it's a huge power, and it knows to do things that are unimaginable. Were unimaginable in just 2 years ago. But with that, it adds a lot of new complexity and a lot of new things that you need to take care of. And I think that first of all, like people really need to understand, and we learned it both from doing things internally on how we work and like internal solutions that we have. Like for instance, we have our engineering team took the biggest challenge of splitting a large monolith and did it with agents. And we learned a lot about how is it like to do this kind of work with agents. And you need to spend a lot of time in order to make sure that you have the right control, that you have the right measures in place, that you create the right framework for AI to run within it that will provide you the control that you need, that will provide you a clear in and out, clear input and output to this process, which is not deterministic, that need to go back to something that you can see, understand, which is not a black box. And I think that this is also something that we experience with the offering that we have. Like we offer our customers to actually implement agents in order to call their customers, and call potential leads, for instance. So at the beginning, we thought that the best direction would be to allow them to build this kind of super agent that can take a lot of decisions and have a lot of discretion within it. And as time passed by, we actually understood that it's not that, agent is implementing workflows within it. We actually want the other way around. So we want to wrap it with rigid workflows that trigger the agent and use it and leverage it only in the points where AI capabilities are really needed, and then with the right frame. So in that sense, we have the Monday platform, which serves us as the transactional layer. If you think about it, the place where you get input in a way that you control the permission, you know what data goes into the model, goes into this specific process. And on the other side, when it finishes the work that we assigned for the AI within a specific workflow, it need to go back to a transactional, source of truth. And this transactional source of truth is important from various reasons, starting from your ability to control and to see the output and to make sure that it makes sense, all the way to, make sure that the side effects of AI are scoped as you like them to, and not having side effects that you don't want to have. And in general, this is like a lot of realization that we had both in internal work and for our customers on how exactly to leverage AI and how to give it the best frame in order to do the work it does best, but then not skipping about, the most structured part of the process, which is, crucial in order to assure results and to gain confidence in code, in business, processes, results, and so on.
Great answer. Yeah. So you intentionally create a layer of abstraction between the non-deterministic and the deterministic portion of the workflow execution.
Yeah. And I think it's also important to say that you actually need to build it in a very modular way. So we started with solutions that are like, again, like one big agent, and then something doesn't work. And now we need to understand how. And once it's such a huge discretion within this unit, it's very hard, So potentially, like the demo is amazing. But when you want it in real business and you want it to actually talk with your customers, you can't allow these kind of mistakes, for instance. So where you split the monolith code, you can't allow him to modify it as it will. You need to have very specific guardrails. So we first did I would say putting the agents work within workflows which are more structured, but also splitting the agents into a very modular and small units. And then you can think about it that each workflow actually has like structured part in it and have things that are non-deterministic in it, but each and every loop should work through a very structured input, very structured output for the non-deterministic part. And then you get control and you know also how to maintain it, how to improve it over time, how to detect problems and so on.
Right. Yeah, it makes a ton of sense. So there must have been a time, given the vast number of customers, 250,000 customers on the platform, when you designed a feature, you thought you knew what it was going to do, and then a customer did something that you didn't anticipate, and you ended up kind of learning about how the feature worked. Give me an example of how a customer did something that surprised you about how when they actually use an AI feature in the wild.
Yeah. So first of all, Monday was built from day one as a platform with the premise of giving the power of technology to people. We really believe that once you give the power of building the tool for the ones in the organization that have the business problem, you gain a lot of benefits from it, and it's a huge superpower. In that sense, AI actually accelerated this vision exponentially, because now it's not only taking the Monday's building blocks, the boards, the columns, the dashboards, the automations, and comprising your own solution, but you can now take AI and build custom, hyper-tailored software for you on top of the platform. And so I must say that with Monday prior to the AI, we had customers for more than 200 different industries doing anything that you can imagine with the platform. And this is really mind-blowing, because we are not experts in each and every one of the use cases our customers are doing. So they're doing events planning, they are doing construction, they are building airplanes with it, they have real estate use cases, they have marketing, finance, you name it. So this was prior to the AI. Now with the AI, specifically, let's take, for instance, Monday Vibe. So Monday Vibe is actually a Vibe coding tool, which is built on top of the Monday platform. So you get the data, permissions, governance, everything from the Monday platform, but on top of it, use Monday Vibe to actually write your own words and create custom software with it. So, for me, the most surprising part about it is that the barrier to become a builder was suddenly even lower than expected. So we released Monday Vibe first internally, and we have 3,000 employees at the company. I think that after 2 weeks or so, more than 2,000 of these employees actually created apps. And it was about everything. And this was mind-blowing. It was my program manager created an OKRs overview with reporting for me. The HR created a new way to onboard new employees to the company. The customers organization build a renewal planner and something that creates a renewal strategy for you with AI. So, I just got all these use cases and from people that are non-tech, and this is our vision, and this is what we always aimed for with Monday. And I think that now with AI, and specifically with Monday Vibe, there is no one interface that is similar to another. Each person takes it to his own needs, but it's built on the platform. And this is why, from one hand, you get this full customizability and hyper tailored interfaces to your need, with the constraints of the platform, which are actually very important for what we talked previously. So this was just one mind-blowing experience of seeing the diversity of what people are building.
Today's episode is brought to you by my company, PeopleRain. As you hopefully know, PeopleRain is the AI platform that automates work. Tens of millions of employees around the world get back 4 to 6 hours per week because PeopleRain automates away the friction. Imagine a world where your teams never have to wait for technology upgrades or to have a human reset their password or get added to a distribution list or get help with payroll, PTO, or benefits. Inbox zero for the help desk, zero friction for employees. That's the future of work. That's PeopleRain. We're offering all members of Team Human, and hey, that's you, our listeners, an exclusive discount on PeopleRain just for being part of this amazing community. Get the discount code at peoplerain.io/podcast. That's PeopleRain, like the reign of a king or queen.io/podcast. Now back to this week's conversation.
So we can't have this conversation without also talking about AI guardrails and just the kind of an open-ended question. But what does it mean to practice responsible AI to you as the leader of this big R&D organization?
So from the product perspective, I would say that many times when you see AI solutions, it's not clear to you what are they doing, what data are they using, what are going to be the side effects. And we have a principle in our offering that we really want to make sure that everything is explicit. And not only that everything is explicit, if we take this principle for data, for instance, so you need to say what's included as opposed to say everything but exclude this and that. So this is just one example. I think that you need to work extremely hard, both when you work for your customers and both when you work internally, in order, again, to create this kind of frame that we talked about, okay? So internally, I would say many times it's making sure that we segregate the data in different places and that we don't create one big thing that oversees everything. Rather, we break it into specific steps, as I mentioned before. And in general, I think that you must guarantee that the contract with AI, input and output, are extremely well defined and people are extremely well aware of that. And the second thing is that everything that we are doing with AI, we spend a lot of time in order to make sure that we have visibility into what's actually happening. So many times you'll see that it's not only about having input and output. For the work of the AI, we have a lot of, I would say, ways in order to see the actual steps within it, to have like this non-deterministic work in a way that actually records, the different side effects, the different access to data, and so on. And this is a lot of hard work. It's defining where do you want to intervene. It's defining where are the feedback points. It's defining like what are the things that you allow and don't allow. But I don't think that you can guide the AI within the AI discretion itself. This is something that you actually want the fluidity. But what you do want to define is the frame. Okay, the input, the output, the contract, and the visibility into the actions of the AI itself, if that makes sense.
Is there ever an example of where you or your team developed an innovative feature that was working functionally, but you had to pull it back from the market because the AI went rogue, or you saw the potential for it doing something, that could be harmful?
Yeah. So maybe I'll start with an internal example. So going back to this example of agents that are splitting the monolith. So suddenly we saw in some PRs that the agent actually also detected flaws in the logic of the, of the things, and didn't do just the split, which is actually a rewrite. It was also actually fixing bugs. So this is, we didn't want it to happen because we wanted the ability to run side by side and to see that there are exact similarities between like the new implementation and the old implementation. So there the team came up with an amazing idea of like giving the agent the channel to tunnel these understandings, but not into real changes. So they made a concept of adding human to do to the code. So the agent, every time he sees something that is not like is not related to the original task, it actually adds to-dos as comments to humans to see. So this was a very nice example. And I think in that sense, it's not fighting against the AI, right? It's not like making sure that it doesn't do things, because this is an endless effort. It's more like tunneling it to a place in which you have the control and the visibility, again, to the principles before. And we also maybe I'll say something about agents we implemented for our own use, and we really want to actually use our own technology. And we had the agent that answered the ticket and actually scheduled a call with a customer, and no one showed up, and we we realized that the customer said I was scheduled by the agent and no one showed up, and then we understood it. So this was another example that shows the gap, or like the distance that you have from having like a demo working with the wow effect all the way to implement it in real business where the stakes are different, and how much of the work is in that gap and in that area, and not on the first successful demo, I would say.
So here's a harder question. So let's say take that example into the field, and a customer builds whatever with Monday Vibe, an agent scheduling or scheduler or whatever, and something like that goes wrong. The agent, quote, screws up and it schedules a call and no one shows up. The customer comes back and says, Monday, it's your fault. It's your platform. You gave us the tools. We paid for them, and it scheduled this call, and it was rogue and no one showed up. Is Monday responsible when the AI did exactly what it was supposed to do, but the outcome wasn't something that customer anticipated? How do you accept responsibility or not for that, for things like that?
So I think that the first thing that we have obligation to our customers is to try and guide them. Most of Monday's customers, around 70% of our customers, are non-tech savvy. And this is why we always had like the position of being the ones that makes technology accessible for non-tech people and giving them this power. And I think also with AI, a lot of emphasis should be around how we guide them in the right way to build things, first of all, on the happy path, making sure that we are making them aware of where they need to, check the agent's work, give them ways in order to actually oversee it, give them ways to train these agents and make sure that these agents work. And now, does it guarantee that no mistakes will happen? The answer is definitely no. But this is the same with humans, by the way. It's not different. Many people say we said the agent is accurate in 80% of the time, for instance. And people say, wow, it's not 100%, and they were extremely surprised. And then we went back to the same function that is made by humans, and they say, no, with humans, it's actually 67%. So we need to keep that in mind. And again, many of the things are around building the right guardrails and the right frame. And we see ourselves responsible of helping our customers adopt this technology in a responsible way and helping them to understand what it means in practice, and give them tools around it and empower them to do this. I don't think anyone can say that, everything around AI is going to be with no mistakes. But this is true for everything. It's also true for software prior to AI. In many ways, we have so many examples of, launching an email campaign and having a bug and sending it to the wrong people, right? With like different products. So these are things that happen, and it's part of like doing business. But the point here is that we really want to give our customers the best tools and the best guidance on how actually to take the most out of it.
But if a human makes a bad decision, let's say it's a biased decision, or they miss a meeting that was on their calendar, the customer doesn't say, it's Microsoft's fault because that meeting showed up on my Outlook calendar, right? It's Microsoft's fault that the human missed the meeting, right? Nobody would say that. Whereas in this case, AI has, there's a vendor, there's a price, on the agentic behavior. It's not an easy question because as a society, we're figuring out, even though humans maybe have a higher error rate than AI, somehow, we need to find a way to assign blame when the AI makes mistakes. So
I think again, like, if you look 2 years ago and ask this question, so the answer would be, yeah, like, yeah, it should be perfect. But I think we also, as humans, learn this technology on every aspect of our lives, right? So it's driving our cars. It's like making suggestions on what we need to hear next on, like, and so on and so forth, and provides us informations on questions that we have, which is not. So I think, like, as humans in the last 2 years, we've done a major step into understanding how this technology works, the advantages and disadvantages. And there is definitely a lot of things that we also, I think the expectations have changed. And from one hand, there is a much bigger expectation for the value. Like, people really understand that it can do so much for them. There are so many examples that are already, like, tangible and you can put your hands on. But from the other hand, I think that each and every one of us in our day to day, like, experience also the disadvantages of using AI in some cases. So I think this is also, the expectations are also changing by people. And it's not only, like, this is another perspective maybe to this question.
Well, there's so much more to unpack on that conversation. That's the topic of a whole conversation.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we're bad out of time. But I'm not letting you off the hot seat without answering one last important question for me. I think you and I would agree that the state of AI, for as mind-blowing as it is today, as we sit in early 2026, I think we'd agree that it's primitive relative to where it's headed. I would say, maybe a fair analogy is like the days of desktop computing when, we were restricted to, terminals and there was no mouse and no GUI interface, right? It's kind of where we're at today. But given that, I'd like to know from Daniel's perspective, in a decade, what's something that will be just commonplace in a work environment that today, just seems like science fiction?
Yeah, I must say that while I'm fully, like, 100% agreeing with you on the fact that it's still, like, on this, like, first steps in terms of what it can be when it become, AGI and so on and so forth, I do believe that what the technology has to offer today, in terms of using it for business cases, it's already providing a lot of value. Many people talk about AI and they say, listen, AI has, like, few flaws that it actually matches the patterns and so on and so forth. But guess what? Work, huge part of it is exactly like that. So, for me to see that now companies are, like, suddenly can, convert all the way that they communicate with the customers and the way that, they handle leads to an AI process, and it gains the same results, it's already mind blowing, and it's a huge, huge change in how we work. And this is so fundamental and so meaningful and changes the dynamics of the world in such a, suddenly SMB, a small startup, can have the best service on any language across, follow the sun, anything you'd like. And these are, like, for business, from a business perspective, I think that there is already a ton of value in the current state of AI. And AI actually works extremely well on many of the cases in which, this pattern matching and not, like, having this innovative thinking or creative thinking is actually better. So I'm sure that in the future we'll have a lot more examples and a lot more domains that will see it. But I think it's already here. And in many ways, for businesses, the transformation, if you haven't started, you should, because it's happening. And everyone are doing it. And the ones that are going to do it fast and to adopt it in real use cases are going to have an edge which is crazy. A competitive edge and competitive, posture, which is already, like, in a different ballpark in my eyes. So I really believe in what you said, but with that, I feel that the value, there's one point about technology and one point about the real implementation of it. And for that sense, I feel like it can bring so much value to our customers with the current state. So we have so many things to build and so many things to do with it.
Just saying the problem is adoption. It's creativity and adoption more than it is any kind of technological impediment.
I think that adoption of AI solutions is like creating new habits for work. And for us as people, this is hard. We talked about it. It doesn't matter if you are like very flexible in your thoughts. It doesn't matter if you're very adjustable. It's a huge change that we need to undergo. And it's hard for people and they need to gain confidence. And many times, changes are not bounded to what's like actually available or what's actually now feasible. It's about what people can actually adopt and what people can actually absorb. So I think this is exactly like how we think about it in Monday, that we take this huge potential and this huge technology and always keep in mind on the the person that is going to use it and what are his fears, what is he afraid of, how can he gain confidence. And a lot of the challenge is not technology, it's about like making it accessible, the product, and how you make it something that people can actually use. So yeah.
I love your optimism, and we're going to have you back. All right. Feels like we were just getting started. I was really looking forward to this one, and now I'm looking forward to the next version.
Likewise. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Well, congrats to you and the team on just an amazing journey, and can't wait to see what's ahead for you and Monday over the next decade plus.
We're building amazing stuff, so definitely things to look up for.
Good stuff. Well, that's the great Daniel Lereya from Monday.com. And that's all the time we have for this week on AI and the Future of Work. As always, I'm your host, Dan Turchin from PeopleRain. And of course, we're back next week with another fascinating guest.
Yo, it's the end of the show, time to power it down. AI's the sis, but humans wear the crown. Team Human in the house, got the vibe so clever. Dan Turchin from PeopleRain, making us better. We learned about AI for humans. We're ready to conquer the future, that's all for now. See you next time.